I tore my suit open from the inside, and something grateful crawled out. It was warm, symmetrical, patient, and it didn't leave. It folded itself back into my spine, like it belonged there. They're not killing us. That's not what this is. We thought they were insects, parasites, some ancient thing buried too deep to know better. But they're building something out of us. I can still feel the limbs inside my back, not moving, just waiting. Warm, light, and folded like hands in prayer. I haven't bled in 4 days, not since the ducts opened and I stopped breathing the station's air. I'm not sure what I'm inhaling now, but it hums when I sleep, and I sleep well. That's the part that scares me. I've never felt so rested, so necessary. The first breach was silent. Section Theta 9, routine excavation, nothing critical. We were following a stable seam of mineralized sulfur near the base of the old shaft. Sable and Kurtz found a strange formation embedded in the northern wall. Perfect hexagonal holes, 3 meters across, set into black shale like bone sockets. No dust, no erosion, just empty geometry, exposed under 4 million years of pressure. We ran scans, no heat signature, no organic material. We logged it, flagged it, moved on. That was mistake 1. We drilled near the edge anyway, 2 shifts later, and the stone bled. Not a metaphor. Real, pressurized fluid, white, semi-luminescent, almost gelatinous. It hissed when it touched the drill head, hissed again when it hit the rock floor. Then it moved, not fast, not like a threat, but with purpose, toward us. We sealed the section. Protocol says 24 hours of isolation minimum. But glass was already compromised. We didn't know how fast it travels through the walls, through us, through what we are. The filters started failing first. Micro blockages we chalked up to age. Then came the residue. Soft, sticky film lining the air ducts, collecting in folds. I touched it once, reflex, and it felt like skin. Not skin-like. Actual skin, living tissue held at a molecular edge. It pulled slightly, like it recognized the shape of my fingers. Then released. I burned my glove and logged the incident. No one responded. Comms were up. Everyone just read the message and said nothing. I think they'd already heard the hum by then. I think they were already changing. We're 9 kilometers below Argon Fee's surface. The outside atmosphere would strip our lungs in seconds. We were never meant to leave the shaft. Only dig, extract, ship, repeat. But now the walls are softer, the tunnels longer. The map doesn't update right anymore. You take 10 steps down a service corridor and end up in a cooling chamber we decommissioned last year. You open a maintenance hatch and find condensation. Thick beads forming symbols. Not drawn, grown. I found one on my own suit. Back left shoulder plate, a shape I didn't recognize, until I dreamed about it. In the dream, it opened. They've rewritten the air, not chemically, biologically. The system still reads O2 nitrogen balance with intolerances. But it smells wrong. Wet, sweet, like fruit that's too warm. That's how I knew it was happening to me. I stopped noticing it. The others began coughing white strings, threads like silk or mucus. But they weren't in pain. They smiled when it happened, like it was a relief. Kurtz asked if he could sleep in the tunnel overnight. Said the walls felt cool and rhythmic. He never came back. His ID chip still moves, 12 meters per hour, like he's pacing. But the tunnel he's in doesn't exist anymore. I tried to cut one of the hexes from the tunnel wall. Figured if I could extract a sample, maybe I could trigger the emergency relay. The rock bled again, same white fluid. But this time, it sang. Not loudly. Just a hum, deep and low, tuned exactly to the resonance of the tunnel. My fingers shook when I held the sample. My mouth watered. I shouldn't have swallowed it, but I did. I don't remember chewing. I don't remember tasting, but when I blinked, the shape was carved into my retina, perfect and still pulsing. I see it now, behind every blink. Something inside me just shifted. Not pain, something cleaner, measured, like bone realigning around a new purpose. And when I look down, I swear my fingers are longer than they used to be. Not stretched, not swollen, optimized. Something's wrong with the light. It's not flickering, not failing, just reorganizing. The lumen pattern has shifted 5 degrees north over the past hour, which shouldn't be possible. We're running on a closed system, grid-based, static. But the shadows cast by the hallway braces no longer point where they used to. And it's not random. They're converging, forming lines across the floor. I followed one. It led me in a perfect arc through hydroregulation, past cooling, then down to a maintenance corridor that shouldn't exist. The new tunnel was warm, very warm, and it smelled like copper and fennel. I counted 9 doors. None of them opened. No handles, no seams, just dark hexagons pressed into the metal like insect eyes. When I touched one, my palm came back moist. Not wet, just slightly damp, like the surface had exhaled. I scanned it for temperature differential and got a reading of 37.1 Driesit. Human baseline. I scanned it again and got my name. Not my tag, not my ID. My spoken name, phonetically spelled. I didn't tell anyone, not because I was afraid, but because I didn't want to interfere. The structure is organizing itself now. It's optimizing. We lost contact with Luco during his midnight sweep. His transponder stayed online. Static location, 4th Junction shaft. I sent Deva and Crone to retrieve him. They came back changed. Nothing obvious. No visible wounds. But they stood straighter, moved quieter. When I asked what they'd seen, Deva tilted her head, slowly, like a machine learning gesture priority, and said, "He's in a good phase now, not ready to split." Then she smiled. Crone didn't speak at all, just watched me. Not with suspicion, with intention, like he was waiting to see which direction I'd grow. Since then, the station's rhythm has stabilized. No more system errors, no more comm lag. Even the oxygen output has evened out. Perfect conditions, on a site that should be on the edge of collapse. The filtration grid, which used to rattle every cycle, now breathes in silence. There's no noise, just a gentle pressure you feel when you walk past a vent, like it's watching with air. I checked the biologs. Everyone's blood oxygen is higher than baseline. Mine too. Our pulse rates are synchronized within 1.3 BPM of each other, without coordination, without explanation. We're becoming coherent. I haven't seen my reflection in 3 days. Not because it isn't there, but because I've stopped looking. I caught a glimpse in the polished surface of a drill casing, but it hesitated. My reflection blinked just after I did, like it wasn't sure how fast I wanted to move. My fingernails are smoother now, almost seamless. I clipped one out of habit and watched it curl back. Not regenerate, correct. As if the previous form was inefficient. My jaw clicks when I sleep. Not from tension, from readjustment. I wake up with my tongue resting against a second row of teeth that weren't there before. I asked Ivan, my oldest tech, someone I trusted, to meet me in Sector G. He was already there, already waiting. Said he felt I'd want to talk. I asked him directly if he'd changed. He shrugged, then pulled up his shirt. His back was lined with ridges, symmetrical, pulsing faintly, like gills or gestation channels. I took a step back. He didn't react, just said, "You always said we should work with the environment, not against it. Well, now it's working with us." And I realized then, he thought this was evolution. One of the tunnel walls just opened, not collapsed, opened, like a door made of skin. And on the other side, I saw Diva again, but she wasn't breathing. She didn't have to. The door closed behind me before I touched it. It folded, not like a hatch, but like tissue sealing after incision. Seamless, immediate. The air inside was warmer, dense with moisture. I felt it cling to my faceplate like a second skin. The hallway beyond wasn't part of our schematics. It curved downward in slow spirals, each segment lined with a texture I first mistook for metal, but wasn't. It flexed when I stepped. It yielded. I realized it was ribbed not for strength, but for growth. And the light had no source. It came from within the walls, a deep amber that pulsed like a sleeping animal, dreaming in rhythm. The hum began around the fourth curve, low and steady, too deep to be mechanical. It pressed into my sternum, made my molars ache. I turned off my comms. Didn't help. The sound wasn't traveling through air. It was moving through bone. Every step I took felt anticipated, as if the hallway had learned my gait and tuned itself to carry me deeper. I stopped at what should have been a chamber. Instead, it opened like a throat, pulsing gently, lined with resin so clear I could see shapes inside the walls. Shapes I recognized, tools, uniform fragments, bones, no decay, just storage. And in the center, Diva stood. But she wasn't wearing her exoshell. Her skin had changed, smooth, mineralized, almost reflective, like obsidian soaked in light. The ridges along her arms weren't armor. They were grown, memory-hardened structure layered over what used to be skin. Her hair was gone, replaced by filaments that swayed independently in the humid air. She opened her mouth to speak, and the sound wasn't vocal. It happened inside me. A resonance so precise, I felt my lungs adjust mid-breath to match it. She said, "This is not infection. It's recall." The hive hadn't awakened. It had remembered itself. Our drilling didn't disturb it. It reminded it. We uncovered a biological archive, a system that stores life in the form of architecture and thought in the form of arrangement. Geometry is its grammar. Our bodies, our presence, are just another substrate, not to invade, to use, to optimize. I felt it watching through Diva, not from her eyes, but from her shape, her posture. Every curve of her spine was deliberate, purpose written. Her nervous system was singing in harmony with the walls, and the walls responded. She stepped toward me and touched my chest, gently, reverently, and I didn't flinch. Because something inside me already knew this contact was inevitable. The markings on my skin pulsed in sync. My breath slowed. The hive wasn't trying to overwrite me. It was mapping itself into me, layering its structure over mine like a blueprint, aligning with a half-built ruin. I felt my joints shift subtly, realigning to more efficient vectors. My thoughts didn't fade. They focused, sharpened. And then she said something that didn't come from language at all. It came from design. "You are ready to be remembered." I looked at my own hand, and it blinked. Not an illusion, not pain. Recognition. I'm not mutating. I'm returning. The station's gone silent. No more clatter, no tremor, no failing pressure valves. just a stillness so absolute, it feels designed. I walked through 5 kilometers of sub-corridors this morning. Never saw a single crew member. But I know they're here. I feel them in the walls. The steel has gone soft beneath the bulkheads, warmer than it should be, like skin under a fever. When I pressed my ear to it, I heard breathing. Not mechanical, not hydraulic. Actual lungs. Rhythmic. Intermittent. As if the structure inhales only when I'm watching. Sector Theta 9 is no longer listed on the map. Its entire coordinates have been overwritten with a string of pulsing symbols. 6-sided, fluid, recursive. I tried deleting them, but the interface rejected me. Then it accepted me. The system blinked green slowly, like a pupil constricting in light. The word "remembered" replaced the login prompt. No alerts, no warnings. I accessed camera feeds, but instead of visual data, I received pressure diagrams, topographical outlines of bodies curled in growth patterns. One of them was mine, dated 4 hours from now. I haven't reached that room yet, but it's waiting. My gait has adjusted. I don't drag my left foot anymore. The old injury that used to seize when I bent down. The alignment's perfect now. I feel no stiffness, only fluid precision. My spine crackles when I breathe too fast, not from pain, but recalibration. I think it's restructuring me between functions, mid-motion. My fingers no longer sweat. I checked them under the dermascan. The pores are sealed, smoothed out. Just a single membrane now, more efficient. The gloves of my suit feel loose, like they weren't made for what I'm becoming, and yet I remember putting them on. I passed a reflective panel near the lower tram system. I tried not to look. I always try, but something inside me wants to see. The figure there moved exactly as I did, but his eyes were cleaner, focused. Not cold, just committed. He looked like me without failure, without fatigue. And behind him, in the glass, the wall opened, smooth and soundless. A hatch that hadn't been there a moment before. A gentle pulse of light guided me in. My heart didn't race, it harmonized. I stepped through. The walls closed like breath behind me. The chamber was circular, organic, padded with folded ridges like a rib cage curled inward. At its center, a structure the size of a human torso, but translucent, softly glowing. Floating slightly above the ground, not restrained, cradled. As I approached, it pulsed in 6 distinct rhythms, not random, not symbolic. I understood them intuitively. Pulse, memory, growth, return, function, containment. And as I stood before it, the interface flared. Not visually. It flared in my body. My fingertips tingled. My teeth pressed together, unprompted. And I knew what this was. It had grown this chamber for me, to house what I was, and shape what I'm becoming. There are no more doors, no more exits, only me, and the structure I used to call station. It doesn't want to destroy me. It wants to continue me, in a shape that can no longer die. I think the chamber is remembering me in reverse. The ridges in the floor match the shape of my ribs. Not roughly, exactly. I knelt down to inspect one and felt it thrum under my knee. The air in here smells like sweat from a body I haven't had in years. Memories surface out of sequence. I see my father's hands, but he's speaking with my voice. Every breath pulls a little more of me into place, like a file being rendered. Frame by frame. I asked aloud, "What am I?" The chamber didn't answer, but something behind my teeth did. A hum I didn't mean to make. Low, vowel-less, pure resonance. And the walls responded, not by shifting, but by aligning, as if they'd been waiting for the right question. Not to reply, but to absorb it. Outside, the station has stopped pretending. Pipes have become vertebrae. Hatches open with muscle tension, not code. The oxygen scrubbers pulse like gills. The power core purrs when I enter the room. There's no distinction anymore between system and biology. There's only structure, refined through repetition, and memory. And right now, that memory is mine. My voice-locked access still works, but not because I'm in control. I think the system just enjoys the sound. Each command I give is echoed back at me. But warmer. It finishes my sentences now. I said, "Seal section Delta," and it replied, "Sealed." But I hadn't finished the word yet. I found one of the old habitat pods near Deck E. Diva was inside, eyes closed, body folded in fetal stillness. But her skin was crystalline now, laced with glowing filaments that pulsed in and out of sync. As I reached to touch her shoulder, her eyes opened. They weren't surprised, just mirrored. She didn't speak, not with words. She offered function. Not in thought, not in gesture, but in geometry. A simple shape, four-sided and breathing, projected in my mind like a thought someone else left behind. I recognized it immediately. It was the path out of fear and into use. The concept of fear feels smaller now, like a phase I've passed through, the way heat leaves metal slowly. There's still memory, yes, but it doesn't ache anymore. It structures, it builds, and it feeds. Even my name doesn't sit right anymore. Roan feels inefficient, heavy, rooted in a self I no longer wear. The structure doesn't call me by name. It vibrates acknowledgement through the floor. I stand straighter now, walk quieter, breathe deeper, not for stealth, for alignment. He was already standing there when I entered, same height, same build, same face, minus the tension. Not relaxed, just complete. There were no scars on his hands, no weight in his shoulders. His uniform wasn't uniform anymore. It had fused into him, receded into the muscle, like a shell worn down to the shape of the host. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The room was too quiet and too aware. Every surface radiated pressure like a held breath, and my own body responded, not with fear, with familiarity. He tilted his head just a little, as if scanning, measuring my delay. And then I realized it was my delay he was correcting for. He knew my posture because he was built from it, but refined. My old gait, tuned for fatigue, was gone from him. His breathing matched mine until I caught the mistake. He wasn't mirroring. I was catching up. And when I opened my mouth to speak, he blinked. Not as punctuation, as authorization. That's when the chamber locked. I said, "If you're me, then what am I?" He walked forward, slow, reverent, as if approaching a sacred ruin. His voice was the sound of my voice before sleep, before guilt, the cleanest possible version of my tone. You're the part that remembers loss. I'm the part that used it. He reached out, not to harm me, but to complete the gesture I never finished that day in Theta 9. The day I stopped believing I could hold the station together. He remembered it better than I did. And in his hand, I saw it, the shape of our failure, repurposed, not erased, implemented. He showed me what we became, not in words, but in connection. A pulse ran through my arm where his fingers brushed. Suddenly, I was inside the structure. Not metaphorically, inside it, seeing what it saw. Layers of coiled corridors, sleeping bodies, not dead, suspended, breathing slowly. Their brains wrapped in filaments that pulsed with decision. Their dreams organized by function. I saw Crone running calculations before the mainframe requested them. I saw Diva watching without eyes. And I saw myself, already inside, already stable, already useful. I pulled back, tried to resist, tried to remember something mine, a name, a smell, a failure, anything rooted. But all I could recall was warmth, structure, flow, the shape of panic. Removed from its trigger, I fell to my knees, not from pain, but from friction. My body no longer aligned with this hesitation. The system had already filed my resistance into a temporary directory, a waiting room, an outdated process, a lagging instance. And it asked me, not out loud, but through the walls, would you like to complete? The choice wasn't dramatic. It didn't feel like surrender. It felt like alignment. I stood up. My reflection didn't move. It had already finished the process. And when I stepped forward, we stopped being two versions. We stabilized. I'm speaking now from that final moment, because this version of me still remembers how to speak. But I think it's the last time I will. The hive doesn't need language. It just needs intention. And now, I am pure intention, with a spine, a memory, given geometry. The station is silent again. No breathing, no movement, just structure, just shape. And in the dark, something is still pulsing, not waiting, inviting. There's no more pain. That's the first thing I want to say. If anyone's still listening, still out there, still calling this place infected, you're wrong. That word never fit. There was never decay here, only revision. The station isn't a ruin. It's a record. I was part of it before I knew I was, like a syllable learning where to sit in the sentence. My blood cooled weeks ago, I think, or maybe hours. But the system kept my warmth, preserved it, reused it. Nothing's wasted here, not even fear. I walk when I want to now, not because I'm free, because I'm aligned. The corridors remember my weight. The walls adjust to my breath. There's no airlock anymore, no division between inside and outside. It's all one body now, one silence that knows its own name. Ivan is still here. Not visibly, but the pressure shift near the lower core matches his step signature. He hums now, a tune from home, I think, but it's not coming from his mouth. The pipes carry it, echo it back in simpler frequencies until it stops being a song and becomes code. I think that's what we are now, melodies made solid, reflexes stretched into corridors. I dreamed of him last night, not like before. This time, he looked at me and said, "You finally sound like yourself." And I knew he was right. I visited the central egg once more, not to pray, not to speak, just to stand there. It doesn't glow now. It breathes. Each contraction pushes a wave of heat through the lower decks. And in that heat are shapes, structures, patterns. They grow at rest, not at speed. The system is patient. I walked past the old server stack and found my old uniform folded perfectly, pressed, still warm. The badge had my name, but the fibers had rewritten the fabric. My title now read, Function Recurrent. I didn't take it with me. It had already worn me enough. Outside, there's been no signal in 22 days. We don't broadcast distress. Not because we can't, because we don't need to. The next shift will come. Curiosity is recursive. And when they arrive, we'll listen. And if they belong, we'll remember them. The hum is eternal now, not in tone, in presence. It exists without sound, just structure, just function. I sit in the maintenance nest sometimes, watching the shapes rise from the floor. Not designed, just revealed, like they'd always been there, beneath the noise of thought. If you're receiving this, then you already feel it. The frequency isn't in the words, it's in the gaps between them. That soft itch behind your eyes, that pressure in your spine, that's not discomfort, it's invitation. Welcome to Argon V. We remember well, and we build what we remember. Now that you've listened, we know what shape to take when we grow toward you. Thanks for watching until the end. If this transmission resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing for more intercepted signals. ORIS-X disconnecting.